All right. Hey, it's good to be here. Ugh, trying to get straight. This video is so close up. It just kind of when I first started, it just makes me go ooh. But anyway, all right. This video is about Henle Latin 2, and I'm explaining to everyone who is new to the Henle Latin curriculum how this nice thick book is laid out. And all of the Henle books are laid out the same. So what I say about 2 is also similar to 1 and 3. In Challenge 3, we're going to do Henle Latin 2 for the first semester, and then we're doing Henle 3 for the second semester. So I'm going to use week 1 as the example of the work to be done. In the challenge guide, as you already know, the work is not laid out daily. It's laid out by the week. When you look at the challenge guide, we meet at the end of each week. So week 1 starts this year on August the 12th. Your daughter's or your son's week 1 this year starts the Monday before that, because they do the work at home. Then in class, we review what they've done, and then we go and I introduce new. So they're going to be working ahead of the seminar. So the seminar day is the end of the actual week. So day 1 is Monday the 5th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That is the first week. And then we meet for our week 1 is end of week the following Monday. So, and this will be the first Monday of each semester. Is always going to be the only Monday that they will actually work, because we'll be in seminar at the end of each week, which is on that Monday. So this will be the only Monday that they work at home. Every Monday after the first Monday of each semester will be in seminar. So, okay, let's look at it. Okay, when I look at the challenge guide, you've got at the top of each page the strand name. The strand is also known as we call it a strand, but it is also known as a subject. So in this case, we're looking at Latin, which is called grammar. The first portion at the top of the page after the heading is going to be the at-home portion. If you look in the left column, that small column, it's going to mention every tool that's needed in order to do that at-home portion. And in this case, it says, okay, the text is Latin, second year, Henle, second year Latin. The right column, which is the bigger section, gives you the details of what the student will be doing for the week. In this case, they're going to be reviewing vocabulary, and then they're going to review the grammatical structure and grammar rules for the particular lessons. And in this case, there are 4 lessons. The other thing that they're going to be doing is they're going to be noting any text abbreviations, because the students are going to be doing a lot of leading of the discussions this year. So every strand will have an opportunity for them to try to create a shorthand, so to speak, so that their note-taking can improve with regard to note-taking while listening to a story, or while engaging in a dialectic discussion, or having a dialogue. Any type of conversations that is presentation style or dialectic in form. This year, most of the strands will have opportunities for creating quick ways to take notes, basically. And I'm actually going to post on our band a great way, something we're going to do week 1, and we're going to do it every week, but I'm going to show them detailed how to do it on week 1. Note-taking strategies that are fantastic. I wished I'd known these before this year, because I sure would have been using them myself. They're great. Your kids are going to love it. And if you as a parent, a teacher, want to implement it, I think you'll be glad to see what I've found out, and we'll share on band. Okay, let's see. In this case, for this particular week, which is the first week of the school year, there's some additional information that's given. You know the acronyms that are used for the Henle. So you're looking at whichever Henle Latin book that is noted, and you're looking at the page number that is denoted on that Henle book. And when you look at that Henle lesson, it most likely will end up being a reading that is intended to be translated from one language to another. If it is in English, you are to use that English. Just read it. Read that exercise that's denoted for your help. The student reads that. It'll help them when doing the lessons in the Henle. In this case, the 4 lessons that are noted. Okay, now, speaking of lessons in Henle, let me tell you how this book is laid out. It's wacko. It's not wacko, but it's odd initially if you haven't seen Henle Latin before. But once you get the rhythm, you'll end up really, really liking it. Okay, first and foremost, you have lessons. The lessons are denoted in the Henle 2 book. The lessons are actually in the back. The translations are in the front. Now let me show you where everything begins. Okay. There are 4 parts, just based on what I'm seeing here. I'm in part 4 of the Henle. This is the exercises based on Caesar. You'll notice the Henle denotes the exercises. When it talks about exercises, it's referring to actual work exercises that the students need to do. The exercises begin on page 303. When you look at the exercises in Henle's Latin curriculum, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, you will have big picture, then more detailed. For example, every exercise begins with a lesson. You'll notice it's in all caps and it's a number. And then it's got the details, third declension nouns, and sum. That is the example of the third declension nouns that is a to be verb. Yes. Third declension nouns and sum, S-U-M. Underneath the lesson, you'll see vocabulary. This is the vocabulary for lesson 1. Now, underneath every lesson, you may see vocabulary. But then what you will see after that are you can consider these little things here lectures. It's still all caps, related English words. These are the lecture part, explaining what the exercises will entail. Then you've got related Latin words. Read the details of those. If you flip, we're still in lesson 1. This is just an example. This is not related to week 1. I'm just I'm letting you see how to read this Henle Latin. So you've got the big bold lesson number with its title, the vocabulary, and then the lecture, the detail information that the student needs to know about what's to come. When you flip, under each lesson, there are exercises. This is exercise 1 under lesson 1. This particular exercise has 7 different steps to it. This is what the student will do. Looking at, and I can tell this exercise is regarding vocabulary. Remember, the vocabulary came here. The vocabulary was right here. And now it's breaking the vocabulary by declensions or conjugations. These are, let's see, are these verbs? Clamor. Let me think. Some of the vocabulary that's in the exercises may come from lessons that were prior to this or in the previous book. At any rate, you are recommended to use this book. With regard to vocabulary that you can't find, you can use the Cassell's Latin Dictionary, Latin to English and English to Latin. It's laid out in 2 ways, but it is a great tool. Your student will use this with every exercise if they need to. Absolutely fine. The other place you can look for the vocabulary in the Henle Henle textbook is in the back. In the very back, you've got Latin to English vocabulary, and if you continue, I'm on page in this book in Henle 2, page 585. If you continue, then it goes. Then it reverses from Latin to English. 624 starts English to Latin vocabulary. So in the event your student has come across a vocabulary word that they are not able to find the definition of in this book, especially in this case because we're on the first lesson, there is no more vocabulary prior to that first lesson because it's all translations prior to that. So they'll use the English to Latin or Latin to English vocabulary book in the event they see a word in the exercise that is not denoted in the vocabulary that is on the section at the beginning of the lesson. So let's go back. Big bold letters, lesson 1. Bold, not bold. They're bold, but they're also uppercase. That title is the lesson title when it's all uppercase. Here you have smaller size, but it's still all uppercase. These are the details, the lecture part. That's what I call it. This is the explanation of what's to come, just some little hints so as to give the student some idea of what they can expect to do in the exercises that will follow this page. So now when you see the exercises, notice it says exercise 1. And then it says give the number 1, genitive singular of these words. Then give the gender and covering rule of these words. Then give the accusative singular. So these are nouns because genitive, accusative, dative, genitive, nominative, accusative, dative, ablative, and nominative, subject, genitive, genitive, subject. I've got to go back and look at my grammar book. It's all in here, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, 7 things they have to do for each word. Let me give you a hint regarding scaling. When you have 14 words, and for each word you have to give 7 answers, that's a whole lot of work. Divide it in half. Your student do the odds. And here's how I do it. I have my daughter does on all the odd numbered exercises to do the odds. If it's more than 10, actually it's 34. I said 14. How did I get 14? 34. I knew that was wrong. 34. If there's more than 10 to do, I have her do the odds. And then if I want to stop at 15, then she'll do the odds up to 15. In this case, she'll do the odds. She'll do it all because this is only 17. 34 divided by 2 is 17. And the reason why you don't want to do the first 17 is because they get progressive. They progress in challenge, maybe. But you want her to go through, you want your student, her or him, to go through all of them. So your scaling can be, of all the odd exercises, do only the odds if there's more than 10. Of the even exercises, here's the even. Give me the genitive, the gender, the accusative, the meaning, and the ablative singular. This is exercise 2. And there are only 9 of them. Well, guess what? I think she could do all 9, in my opinion. That's just me. But if you want to just do 3, that's fine. Or every other one. So 4. Or do the evens. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say do the odds of that too, since it's only 9 of them. That way she's done 5. I like for the student to do more rather than less if it's an odd number, because it just is more understanding. So here's the other thing. Excuse me. With regard for the Henle Latin one, there was a workbook made. One of the homeschool parents was so good, she took every exercise and made a workbook out of it, so that you had all this information, all those words, and for each word it had 7 lines, so that you didn't have to look up here and then write in a book, look up here and then write in a book. It had the word and then 3 lines and then 4 more lines, so that you knew exactly what needed to be done in the workbook, and it was all there. So it kind of made this obsolete, but it didn't. You know, it's good to have the textbook, but it was all in the workbook. That was for Henle Latin 1. Now, Henle Latin 2, I haven't found that, but if I find that, I'm going to send it to you, because I like that workbook. It is a good tool. And I know she might have made it. I just have missed it, maybe. Okay. I want to make sure that you understand, though, how this book is laid out. Exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3, 4, 5, 6. We keep going. That last exercise was exercise 6. Guess what? Lesson number 2. Here's what's going to change. Most people would assume when you get to lesson number 2, then the exercises would start back with 1. No, that is not how Henle is laid out. When you get to lesson 2, here's your vocabulary again. Remember, each new lesson, bold, then you've got your vocabulary list. There's some new words. Then you've got the lecture. Here's the details your student wants to know. Here's some of the assignments that are noted. This is all informational for the student. Adjectives with cases, because guess what? These are adjectives. Let's see. Yeah, those are all adjectives. So you're looking at showing parsing and labeling, diagramming, that is, of a sentence. And this is all lecture. Then you've got a note regarding assignments that are related to this lesson. Remember, our last lesson and our last exercise in lesson 1 was exercise 6. Let me repeat that. The last exercise in the lesson 1 that we just talked about was exercise 6. We're now in lesson 2. Let's get to the exercises. The first exercise in lesson 2 is exercise 7. So, from the front of the workbook portion of this Henle 2, the exercises will not start over from 1 when you go through each lesson. The lessons continue all the way to the end. They go up. Let me see the last lesson in this book. The last lesson in this book, let me go to the front. It's easier for me to find it that way. The last lesson in this Henle 2 book is lesson 32. Guess what? The last exercise in this Henle 2 book, in lesson 32, that exercise is called, oh my goodness, they got some translation back here. Whoa, that's new and different. Oh gosh, let's get to it. All right, so lesson 29, lesson 30, 31, and 32. Look at lesson 32. Look at that exercise number. It's exercise 228, and there's 229. So the exercises will continue from the last exercise of a previous lesson. If the last exercise from the previous lesson is 22, then the next lesson might be 5, but guess what? Its exercises are going to continue 23, 24, 25, and so on until you get to the end. This is how you know how many lessons are in the entire book. There are 229 exercises in this book. And then behind that, because there is a lot of translations, then you've got a whole nother category of readings with translations, just like in the first half. Just like in the first half of the book, which is right here. Whoops, let me go back. Okay, so part 4. The first half of the book. Part 1. Julius Caesar and the Roman imperialism in Gaul. Part 2, Roman imperialism in Gaul. Part 3, Jesus Christus Rex Regum. Amen. That's part 3. And part 4 is the exercises. I will let you know what pages these are on. The first part 1 starts on page 1. Part 2 starts in front of page 17. So I'll say that's page, 14. Roman imperialism in Gaul. Part 3 starts on page 266. And part 4, which are the exercises, starts on page 303. I would encourage you to put some tabs on there like I've got. They say part 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that your student can get to them rather quickly and when she or he needs. And you're welcome to use one of these as a quick reference to the current location. As she does the work, use one of these, relocate it as she goes through the work so that she can quickly jump on the lesson that she's on. So that's not the lesson we're on. That's just basically, actually, that is where we are. Yeah. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. So that is how this book is laid out. That is how you're going to go through it. So when you see, if the instructions say to review grammatical structures and grammar rules, particularly from these lessons, each lesson has at the top, remember, at the very front of the lesson, you're going to see not only the vocabulary, but you're going to see the grammar. Those are the grammar rules that are referred to. And those numbers refer to the grammar numbers in this book. And by the way, speaking of this book, the grammar rules have titles. If you'll look at all the titles, I've got mine tabbed for quick access because verbs are very popular. Nouns are at the very front. Oops, excuse me. Okay, let me get that out of there. The grammar rules. I never tell my students in class what page to look at when I'm talking about the grammar rules. I tell them the grammar number because just like the Henle exercises go from 1 to 229, the grammar rules go from 1 to the end of the book. So they don't need to know what page. I want them to know the rules. I want them to get used to hearing the grammar numbers. I usually require the students to do the very same thing. Don't tell me the page that you're on. Don't tell me page 87. Tell me rule 467. Here's some of the more popular rules, and I'm going to tell you these because these are the ones that I was trying to get to earlier that I messed up with. The first rules are the noun rules. The first rules of engagement are the noun rules. So you want to make sure that the student knows where the noun rules are. Rules 24 all the way down to, nope, is that 24? Yeah, 24, 14. That's 14 at the top all the way down to 24. And actually it starts before that. But actually that is where it starts. Here's what I was trying to do. Noun families in Latin, nouns are called declensions. Declensions come in families. The families of declensions. Nominative. The nominative is the subject. There it is right there. The nominative, remember, nouns have several jobs. They can do many things. They can be subjects. They can be direct objects. They can be indirect objects. They can be object of the prepositions. They can be a noun of direct address. They can be possessives. They can be possessives. And 5 noun jobs in Latin. They are subject, possessive, indirect object, direct object, and object of the preposition. Now, there are more noun jobs like noun of direct address. So that's what the vocative is. That's called the vocative, and we're going to be doing vocative in the very beginning of the first day of school. That's what your student will be studying the week before we meet the first day. So those uses, subject, possessive, indirect object, direct object, object of the preposition, those uses are called declensions because the nouns are declensions, and the uses of the declensions are nominative, which is the subject, genitive, which is possessive, dative, which is the indirect object, accusative, which is the direct object, and ablative, which is the object of the preposition. This is the singular right there, and then you've got the same uses: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, object of the preposition in the plural. And as you can tell, this is the model declension. Excuse me. The model declension is just one word that they use as a model to show the different forms of the noun. And terra is the one. Terra means land. Territory in English, if you want to look at an English word that has the roots in terra, territory, terrestrial, it means terrestrial, maybe, I might be wrong on that one, but land. And you can see the definition of, if the nominative is a subject, it is interpreted as meaning land, the land, or a land. Genitive, possessive, if you can see how the ending is, and here's its interpretation: of the land. That's how you write a possessive. Of the land. Dative, indirect object, to or for the land. Accusative, direct object, the land or a land. Ablative, object of the preposition, by, with, from the land. And then of course the plural is right here. We are on rule number 31 for your information. But prior to 31, you'll see more details about the declensions in the previous rules. So that is how that is laid out. So when you see rule numbers in this book, in the exercises, those rule numbers that the instructions are telling you, look at it. Review grammatical structure and grammar rules, particularly from lessons, blah, 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 blah. Go to the lessons and look for the grammar rules. The grammar rules is going to be right underneath each. When you look at the lesson heading, oops, I'm not even in the right lesson. I'm not there at all. When you're looking at the lesson heading, remember the uppercase words? What is going on here? Oh, I'm in the wrong section. That's vocabulary. No wonder. Remember, the lesson heading is going to have your vocabulary, the lecture, and underneath the assignment, underneath you see assignment. Those are the grammar rules, and the numbers are denoted right there. Rule 45 to 64. Yep, that means they need to look at rule 45 to 64. They're very relatable, so it'll be a quick read through. And then more rules here, and more rules here. These rules will repeat in each of the lessons, because the same rules may apply to multiple lessons, because language is connected. It's related. It's it's time to eat. It's related. So that's what I mean about, that's what this book is talking about. When you're looking here, your Henle second year, there's your second year. And then when it says grammar, always know it's the grammar book. This book will go with your child until he graduates from the program, because it's useful in all the Henle books, to all the Henle lessons. All right. Now, don't forget to scale. If you want to do every other lesson or exercise, each lesson has at least 3 to 5 or even more exercises. If you want to do every other exercise, if they're similar, then do that. If you want to do, if they're like 7 exercises, you want your child to do the odd ones in one. If there's 30 of them, do just 5 of them in this one. Make sure they're broken. I usually put a circle around the ones that I want my daughter to do if they are sporadic. because I wanted to do the ones I've circled, not the first 5. Because again, the difficulty progresses as you go through, and I need her to get through to the more difficult ones. So that's a way to scale it. You scale it best for your family. And I promise you, if I find that workbook, I'm going to get it for you. I'm going to send it to everybody because it's a great book. It was for Henle 1, and I'm praying that that same beautiful homeschool CC mom has done the same for 2 and 3. All right, until next time. We'll see you again on this venue. Shalom, shalom. Bye.